Well, research is a fantastic job to have. So no 2 days are the same. Every day is a new challenge, a new discovery.
Is it really exciting?
It is really exciting. Yeah, you do have to be able to cope with the high and low aspect, but the moment where you meet that intellectual challenge or you've made that discovery, to me, I think that's the same as winning a long distance race or, being a finalist in a sprint. It must be the same kind of high, and that's what keeps you going until the next one, which can be some years in some cases. So yeah, that's why I think of it as an extreme sport, because you have to have persistence and training and commitment, but the outcomes can be really amazing.
What do you see as the biggest problem or the biggest challenge facing the Australian livestock industry at the moment?
Well, I think there are several, and some of them are really obvious. So the changing climate environment is one that we are needing to meet head on as a global challenge, not just in Australia, but elsewhere as well. The consumer perceptions around the way that livestock is produced and the challenges that we have to meet every day for balancing high levels of production with good welfare and good operations and good human interactions. I think it's a really complex place to be in at the moment, and hopefully the work that we're doing is helping to meet some of those grand challenges.
Tell us about the work that you are doing to actually address exactly those sorts of challenges, particularly around health and welfare, as well as the outcomes for the livestock industry.
So I do a lot of work in the intensive beef space. So this is where we've got large numbers of animals in high intensity production systems. And so one of the challenges that we have there is if you want high levels of production, you need really high levels of welfare and performance. And sometimes we are needing to invoke new technologies into those areas that are helping manage or monitor those animals much more closely and in a much more granular way. That hasn't been really possible until recent technologies have emerged into the sector, and so we're applying some of those in our research, such as really rapid diagnostics to monitor disease across populations in real time, but also using big data approaches to understand what are the best changes that we can use in those production systems to get the best outcomes for our animals and for the production system overall.
That sort of novel technology in your industry, is that something that you have been specifically developing at CSU in a particularly innovative way?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of really, novel emerging technologies that we've been working with. One are high throughput diagnostic platforms. So these are quantitative PCR-based platforms that can look at large numbers of animals and large numbers of pathogens at the same time. So this allows much more high throughput screening than we've ever had the capacity to do before. But also then looking at how can we monitor health impacts and the carcass in the processing part of that production chain. So using emerging technologies to be collecting data around health, particularly in those carcasses that are going through the abattoir.
So how important is robotics? I must admit I hadn't really thought about robotics in terms of livestock industry, but how important is robotics to the well-being of the industry?
Well, look, I guess it's robotics and automation. So there's a lot of work that we're doing on automated assessment. So this is how can we use technology to capture data in a large-scale way and in real time, where we've got often really fast throughput situations or situations where we're dealing with extremely large numbers of animals. So how do we automate that, and how do we automate it for data collection and reporting so that we can understand better how those systems are working? That's very much where those technologies are coming into what I do.
And how important is that for the Australian export market?
Really important. So we have, significant data monitoring and quality assurance processes in the meat export markets at the moment, but we can always do more. So we can always manage that data better. We can give more and more granular feedback to producers as to what's happening in that carcass and those quality metrics in carcasses when they're going for export, as well as just looking at the national production sector as well. We have a very authentic footprint in the research area that I work in. So we are embedded in our regional communities, in our livestock producing zones or our grains producing zones, but also we have, from my perspective, have a very strong footprint in the meat processing sector that sits around our campuses. And so that close collaboration with the whole of the red meat value chain, from production through to consumption, is something that I feel that we have a very authentic ability to meet the challenges in that sector.
You've said that CSU students, so your graduates, have a really strong reputation when they graduate. Why? Why is that?
I think it's because we teach what we do, and it's, from my perception, it's that authenticity in our education programs feeding through into that future workforce, where they're not just learning about agriculture or veterinary science or novel technologies in an abstract concept as part of a degree course where they're never confronted with that day to day. We have our farms on site, we have our processors next door, we have industry placements for students and our industry partners coming in to teach in our courses.
Is it a good career for females?
Absolutely, but it's a good career for anyone. So I would just strongly advocate for students who are interested in agriculture or interested in the livestock industries, wherever they come from, whether they come from an urban background or a rural or a regional background, national or international, to know that there is a place for them, because we need students with a multitude of capabilities across the sector now, everything from engineers to AI experts to machine learning and a logarithm, computer scientists, through our more traditional areas in agriculture, veterinary science and animal science. So there's a role for you somewhere in all of that.